Joining me today is Corinne Lyle, the owner and broker of Royal LePage Benchmark, and today we're going to be discussing valuation. Corinne, thanks very much for joining me today.
Oh, thanks for having me, Wayne. So you wanted to know what is a valuation?
What is a valuation?
What is an evaluation? So evaluation is really knowing where your home is going to sell in today's current real estate conditions.
And how do we determine that?
Well, typically you would hire a real estate professional. That's usually your best bet. And what they would do is they look at your home compared to other homes that have sold that are similar in the last, it could be anywhere from a week to the last 30 days, 60 days, 90 days. Typically, we don't like to go any further out than 90 days because current market conditions can shift that quickly. Right. So usually in that time period.
So within that sold comparative, what factors influence a CMA, a current market appraisal?
Oh, I mean, there are many variables. One of them obviously is the style of the home. That's probably one of the more important things. So if you have a bungalow style home, you don't want to necessarily compare it to a two-story. Those cost differently to build. And so therefore, the way where they're going to sell is also going to be different as well. So you want to compare bungalows to bungalows, two stories to two stories, and two-story splits. You want to compare apples to apples and oranges to oranges. And the same too with condominiums. It's really important that when you're doing an evaluation of a condo, that you're staying within the complex. You don't really want to go outside of it. And there's many other reasons for that as well, despite the fact of potentially the style or when it was built, but also to the financial health of that particular complex compared to something else. Right. Can affect the value of the condominium.
Within that particular unit, whether it's a condo or it's a house, there are other factors that go into determining the value, such as the number of rooms, style, those kinds of things?
Yeah, absolutely. Whether or not the basement's developed or not. Typically what we like to do is say, what's in the home? Because things like bedrooms obviously go to value. How many bathrooms there are, what else? Is it an attached garage or a detached garage? All those things are going to impact the value of the property.
And how well the home has been maintained versus one that hasn't been maintained.
Yeah, absolutely. So pride of ownership, that actually goes to the value of a property, whether a buyer would pay more for that home than something else. I mean, it might not be significant, but in some respect it can be. What you have to understand is that people buy emotionally and they back it up with the analytics. So when somebody walks into your home and it looks so beautiful and it's been well looked after, maybe even updated, a buyer is going to be attracted to that home from an emotional standpoint. And then they look to their realtor to make sure that the numbers back that up.
So when we're looking at a particular home, can the value of the home be improved? In other words, if the home is in X state, can we increase the value of that home by doing a few things?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And there's some things that you can do that are not expensive to do. So we always say paint is one of probably the least expensive things you can do. Sure. To improve the saleability of that home. Other things might go to just even decluttering, right? Or hiring a stager to come in and move around your furniture in a way that makes it more inviting to a buyer. There's some things that you can do that don't cost a lot of money. I always tell people too, I said, if there's something that needs to be fixed, fix it. But don't get into large projects unless you're sure that you're going to see the money come back or even see perhaps an increase in value because of it.
That's what I was going to ask, is that return on investment. It's always been said, or often been said, that your bathrooms and kitchens are your best value for return on investment, but that has more to do with the length of time that you're planning to stay on the home prior to resale.
Yeah, absolutely, because you're never going to get 100% back. And so there's some things that you're going to do for personal use that you enjoy the time period that you're living there. And there's other things that you would do to increase the value. But it's understanding that you'll typically never get 100% back on whatever that you're doing to the home.
All right, and once we've established that value, how precise is it? Is it a range of value? Is it set in stone? The sellers are saying, well, tell me, what is my house going to sell for?
Yeah, and I mean, it's difficult to actually pinpoint a number because really your home is the price it sells for is what a buyer is willing to pay for it and what a seller is willing to give it away for. So that's how value is determined within a range, right? So we're able to mostly determine for the type of home that you're living in, what the low range of that home would sell for and what the high range of that home would sell sell for. And somewhere in there is what a buyer is willing to pay based on some of the things we already talked about. How well does it show? Is there other product that's out there that they could potentially buy as well? So how much competition do you have? I mean, there's a lot of things that go into that. But typically that range that we would provide you is the low and the high. And somewhere in there is where the buyer and seller are going to agree that your home would sell for.
The seller ultimately determines what the selling price should be. It's their home, but if they're smart, they should be taking some recommendations, suggestions from their realtor, working together in a partnership, really.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the way I like to sort of phrase it. I say, listen, here is where other homes have been selling for, like yours. So together, what we're going to do is we're going to look at two things: where your home would be best positioned in the marketplace based on the current market conditions and what your competition is like. And there's some strategy around that can be fun, because really what we want to do is have the other homes in the area sell your home. So where do we best position it so that it's going to do that? The other thing is to be able to see, okay, again, where that range of value is, and ensure that we're not so much beyond that a buyer's not willing to make an offer.
Market conditions have changed in Calgary in the last few months and has put a lot of pressure on pricing. How does a seller adapt to that to put a proper valuation on their home in today's market conditions?
Well, of course, I'm going to say, first of all, contact your real estate professional.
Sure.
That's always a good place to start. It is really understanding that real estate is local, okay? So depending on what community you live in, if you're close to downtown or maybe you're in the suburbs, could be completely two different kinds of markets and market conditions. As an overall generalization, what we're finding right now is that there's more listings coming on the market and less buyers buying. So whenever that happens, that you feel that downward pressure on pricing. But it's really important to again, see what your competition is like. I mean, maybe in your neighborhood, you don't have that many homes like yours for sale, or maybe you do. It's really important to pay attention to those things and look to the future too. So really pay attention to where is the market going, because a lot of people try to price their home based on right at this moment. No, you want to be predicting, hopefully in the next couple of weeks, where that market could be shifting and price your home accordingly.
Sure, and those prices could be trending downwards.
They could be, right, yeah.
And so is this why we're seeing a lot more homes on the market right now with price reductions?
Oh, of course. Whenever, a price reduction occurs because the home isn't selling, right? And usually that's a result of the fact that either A, you were overpriced to begin with, and that could be it, or maybe, when you did price your home, that was the current market conditions and the market has shifted. And so you have to really be flexible. I think the biggest mistake people do is wait too long to make a decision based on how the market is shifting. You want to make that decision as soon as you see that market shifting.
What is the difference between a valuation and a property assessment? I know the difference, but if you could explain it.
Well, so first of all, we know that the city, what they do, the purpose of their assessments is for the purpose of determining what they're going to charge you for taxes, right?
Right.
And they typically do it in July every year. So if you're going to be selling your home in January, are you going to base the value of your home based on something that they did in July? No,
sure.
because
6 or 7 months out.
Yeah, the market shifts so quickly. You can't be doing that. So that's number one. It's never really reflective of the market conditions. Secondly, they do what we call kind of like a mass appraisal or a blanket appraisal. So they'll look at an entire community and determine value based on the average of what those homes are selling in the market. They haven't gone into your home. They don't know the details about your home or the features or the upgrades. They're not taking any of those things into account to make the property adjustments to give you a proper analysis of where your home may sell.
All right. Corinne, is there anything else that you'd like to add about property valuations?
Just, really pay attention to what your real estate professional is saying about the market. And the big thing is too, is having somebody come in, don't just ask them, where do you think my home would sell? And they pick a number out of their head because they know the community. It's really, have they sat down and gone through the market analysis with you? Do you understand it? Can you both make a decision that seems fairly accurate in terms of range of value? Spend the time. Don't just, pull a number out of your head.
All right. Corinne, thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
That's Corinne Lyle, owner and broker of Royal LePage Benchmark.